And now, Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks.
Welcome to Move the Sticks, presented by New Era. DJ and Bucky back with you. And Buck, first of all, that is a beautiful shirt that you've got.
You like
there.
that? You like that apple
the
green?
High school squad.
You like that?
That is
very bright.
That is a beautiful color of green. And you've got some beautiful hats in front of you as well.
I know,
so
we
love
do
the
have some
shirt.
nice
You've
hats.
also got some of those New Era hats. Now, ready to rock and roll. Look at that. That is beautiful.
I know.
I'm going to go favorite of those hats. I'm still going to go Dolphins. I love that. I love that color. I like the way it pops off your green shirt as well.
I like the Dolphins. I wish we had the old logo. I just want the Dolphins to go back to the old logo, the Larry Zonka, Don Shula logo. I like that.
Old school.
Old school. Can't go wrong with that.
All right. Well, we got a jam-packed show today. We're going to continue on with this prototype series, focusing on the edge rusher. And if you're looking for good guests, Buck, I think the folks are going to like who we've got.
They absolutely going to like who we have. DeMarcus Ware joins us. You talk about a dominant pass rusher off the edge. Willie McGinest, maybe the most prolific pass rusher in postseason play. And then Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, longtime scout. He is also going to join us and help us figure out what the prototypes, what are the traits for the best players at the edge rusher position.
And we're going to talk some super sophomores here. Breakout players, year number 2. You're going to give us some on one side of the ball, offense. I'm going to go to defense, give you 3 breakout players there as well. So we've got a lot of ground to cover on this episode. You ready to get rolling?
Man, let's do it.
All right, for those that don't know, the prototype series is where we've taken one position and we focus on that position, talk to experts, former players, current players, executives, coaches, you name it, and try and learn more about this position. Also, looking what this position could look like in the future. So what we've done is we've taken a collection of these interviews, and you're going to get a chance to hear as we focus on the edge rusher position. Bucky mentioned it. DeMarcus Ware, Willie McGinest, Jim Nagy. These are the conversations we've had talking about edge rushers. Enjoy. All right, Buck, look, if we're going to talk about edge rushers and focus on the position, I mean, who's better to talk to than our next guest here with Willie Mack, Willie McGinest. Willie, the number 86 mean anything to you?
Sacks, I think.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Just 86, no big deal. Just 86 sacks in your career, no big deal there.
I know, man. But, well, we'll get into it. But, yeah, the 86 it's a good number.
It's a good number, but it's the postseason number that everyone is excited about, right?
Because you don't combine them.
16.
So you had the 16
and
the 86. That puts you over 100. But my role was a little bit different as an edge rusher / outside linebacker / guy who was in coverage. So it was a little different for me.
Well, I think about it being different. When you look at today's game and you look at the pass rushers, what are some of the core traits that you look for in elite pass rushers?
Well, I think when you talk about lean, a guy being able – well, let's back up. Hands. You talk about a guy, can he use his hands? Can he separate? Offensive linemen, they want to take away the space. It's our job to create space so they can't grab us and and have them put their hands on us and slow us down. So whenever I talk to young pass rushers, I always tell them, use your hands, create separation. Offensive linemen are like puppet. When you give them something, they shoot. You give them a little bit of something, they shoot. They're taught to shoot their hands. So you got to be able to use your hands really well, not give your whole frame, half a man. We always talk about getting half a man, giving them as least as possible when you're pass rushing. The other thing I think is really good when you watch really, really good pass rushers is their get off. I think Von Miller probably is the best in the game. He reminds me of the late, great Derek Thomas when you talk about getting off the ball, that first step, whenever you do drills, working on that first step to gain ground, and then having moves to set up other moves. You can't be one-dimensional. I think you got to give a good offensive lineman, a lot of different moves to win and keep them mixed up and off balance.
If you're building a pass rusher, what is the first thing you'd want to start with?
Ooh, I would say getting off the ball, speed and explosion.
Yeah.
Being able to look and get off the ball. It really doesn't matter if you can't get off the ball in that first step and you don't have that explosiveness. It doesn't really matter. And then I think hands. I think hands is the best thing over it, especially long arm guys that have really long arms like myself. Hunter, you watch him. Zadarius Smith. There are a lot of players with really long arms. You can use that hand to separate yourself.
So when you think about the way guys progress going from college to the pros, How much of that stuff can be picked up when you are a pro? How much of it is natural? How much of it is something that you can learn from a good coach, kind of showing you how to sequence your moves?
I think there's certain guys that have the natural ability to pass rush. When you look at a lot of guys now, they're just great athletes, right? They're fast, they're great athletes. So a lot of these coaches don't develop them at a young age. They put them at the edge, and they say, just run around and tackle. And once you start going against, in college or in the pros, really good tackles, whether right or left tackles, you realize just that bend and that lean and that rip move don't work all the time. They figure that out. They figure that stuff out. So now you got to add different moves and things to your repertoire. Now you got to figure out, okay, if I beat him around the edge, what is he going to do? He's going to kick hard. He's going to get out there because the coach is going to say, hey, you got to get out there. You got to get your hands on him. You know that. So then you get off the ball as fast as you can. 1-2 step, boom. At that third step, you're inside. You're beating him inside because he's going to overset you. So now the coach is going to get on him, hey, you can't give up the inside. That's the fastest path to the quarterback. Don't be so aggressive. So now you got him thinking. Now you got him light. Now he's not jumping out. Now he's inside. Now he's sitting up higher. So now you come off the ball flying, and while he's thinking, trying to figure it out, boom, you give him that speed to power. So now you run him over. So there's a lot of different moves that you do, and I think with certain players who already have a speed rush, which most of them do, now what's the counter?
You know, in thinking about two of the premier rushers in the league, you have Von Miller and you have Khalil Mack. Two guys that have been very productive, but they have different styles.
Yeah.
Von Miller, you talked about his speed, his get-off. Talk about Khalil Mack and how uncommon is it for a power rusher to be able to accumulate the sacks and the numbers that he's been able to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible with him. His hands are like stones. You know, he's a powerful guy. But he is fast, too. He's explosive. He's just more powerful. So he uses it a little bit different. When you watch him rush, he's going to hit you with the power, but he's also agile and versatile enough to get off and make moves off of that. So his initial shock is he's coming off speed, power, explosiveness. He gets into you. He gives you that initial shock, and you see those linemen trying to catch themselves, and then he's off making a play. He's getting rid of them. He's shedding. And this is a guy who played linebacker, you know, if I remember, at Buffalo. So he made all-pro at linebacker and at defensive end. So it just shows you the level of athleticism and the athlete that he is, what he's able to do. But that's rare. You don't find a lot of guys that's so explosive, that's so athletic, that is so powerful.
I'm really surprised you were never my teammate. And I'm surprised you were never my teammate in college because the greatest player that has ever done that was Lawrence Taylor.
Right.
Lawrence Taylor being a DN outside linebacker. So I want to take you all the way back to 1993. And I think we came to Anaheim and Carolina played USC in the Pigskin Classic. And I just wonder if at any time during that game when we're kind of running up and down the field, did you ever regret not wanting to be a Tar Heel? Did you ever regret not wanting to be someone that came and stood in the shadows of Lawrence Taylor and learned how to play the game in a dominant fashion?
I love Lawrence Taylor. He was one of the guys that I watched. He was one of the linebackers. I watched Derek Thomas, like I said. I watched Lawrence Taylor, Andre Tippett. Those were my guys that I watched. And the one thing that I remember in playing you guys, the Tar Heels, down in Anaheim, was I didn't get a lot of action to my side. You know what I'm saying, DJ? You guys ran out our safety,
it was
Mike
31-9, Willie. What the heck, man?
Listen what I'm saying. They ran the ball more than they passed, though.
We ran their entire game. We only threw 7 passes.
Yeah, they ran the entire game, DJ.
I called one, though.
So
I called a big one.
What they did was they were smart. They schemed well. They did not run at number 55. They ran out our safety. I'm not going to say no name, but he knows what I'm talking about.
We might have run the option little bit.
Right. They ran down to our down safety, and they did pretty well.
Hey, Willie, thank you so much for your time, man. And for those listening, look, this guy has a red jacket for being in the Patriots Hall of Fame. It's time he got a gold jacket and went into the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. There's nobody that dominated big games on the big stage from that position like Willie McGinest did. 16 sacks in the postseason. Get this guy a gold jacket already. What's taking so long?
Appreciate it, DJ.
All right, Jim, we had a chance to talk to a guy you know quite well, Willie McGinest, talking about the edge position. And when I first talked to Willie, the first thing I think of, and even talk to him about it all the time, is, Willie, how it's not easy for us to find guys like you. Just talking on Willie McGinest as an edge rusher, how unique it is with his combination of size, power, speed, and everything he brought to the table.
Yeah, that's a great point, Daniel. I think it goes back to my time in New England, and Coach Belichick would always say certain guys don't grow on trees. So we really weren't out there looking for the next Willie McGinest, because they don't happen very often. But no, I think what Willie brought to the table was the biggest things were his combination of length and power. Usually long guys, sometimes struggle playing with a ton of power. Usually power players are more compact. But Willie was such a specimen, and then he could use that length, use that power, and he also had the speed factor too. So again, that's why he was such a high pick and such a productive NFL player. I think he ended his career with most playoff sacks, something like that. But great rusher. But Willie was truly unique. I mean, you walk out on you know how it is. You go to a college football field, and if a guy pops out to you, he's an NFL prospect. Rarely do you go on an NFL practice field and a guy kind of sticks out. Well, Willie even stuck out on an NFL practice field. That's when you know you got a great one.
Hey, no doubt. You mentioned the combination of speed or power. Is it possible in your mind to be a successful edge defender, edge rusher in the National Football League if you don't have either speed or power?
I don't think so. I think you can win with your speed, you can win with power, and then you can win with your savvy and your know-how and your hand use and be a technician. But I think you have to have one element of the speed or the power, and it's the guys that can translate that speed to power, as you know. That's when you really start separating yourself and finding the guy. To me, the biggest thing is finding guys that know how to rush, and they can incorporate all those things and know how to use all their tools.
When you look at some of the guys you had in New England, obviously you had some prototype players and size was a big part of it. But when you look around the league in your time in the scouting world and you see guys like an Elvis Dumervil have success, even somebody, Lamar Woodley was not 6'5", but when you see guys that maybe lack that elite size but have success, and in a couple cases, you're not even talking about just blurs. We're not talking about somebody that's just a pure speed rusher, maybe somebody like a Vic Beasley. But what is it about the guys that don't have those ideal traits in terms of size that are able to be successful?
I think the two guys that you talked about, Elvis and Woodley, both the unique thing about both those guys were the body types. They were, correct me if I'm wrong, but Dumervil might have been right at 6 foot or even 5'11" and change. And I remember Lamar was right around 6'1", but they both had disproportionately long arms. So they did have the length factor working for them, which was huge. It can come in all shapes and sizes. You can't just pinpoint a body type, but one thing they usually have to have is arm length.
When you're watching the body coming off the edge and you're scouting and you're getting ready to take your notes there, Jim, the first thing you look for as the snap begins is what?
Well, first thing would be snap anticipation. Some guys can really get off the rock. They just have a knack for it. And other guys, even though they're very explosive, you look at their 10-yard dash times coming out of the combine, and you don't see it equate to sack production. A lot of times when you go back after seeing a great 10-yard time, it's their reaction time off the ball is slow. So that's really the first thing I look at is can they anticipate the snap count and get off? And then how much ground do they cover with that first step? That first step explosion is key.
How about the ability to finish, Jim, the importance there and what you look for?
Yeah, that's a key thing too. Some guys are more disruptive than productive. That if that makes sense, they can get around the quarterback, but really getting them on the ground is the next step. You can't just affect throws. You got to get them on the ground. I think that being coached up and being around other great rushers, they can kind of teach you tricks of the trade. But I think one thing that if you see all great guys that can finish, they're not always going to get there and get a clean shot. I always look for grip strength in a rusher too, because if they can get around the quarterback and grab some cloth and pull that guy down, that's a key component to finishing.
Last question on these edge rushers: how important is it with scheme fit, or has that changed at all from when you started in the league? Look, we had kind of true 4-3 teams, true 3-4 teams. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes over the years, but is there still an importance you place on fit and scheme?
I think there is overall, big picture in your defense, but I think if you can find a guy that can get to the quarterback, you got to find a place for him. There's so few guys that can really do it at a high level that if you find a guy that's maybe outside of your scheme and your prototype, you got to rely on your defensive coordinator, figure out a way to get them on the field and use them. Because again, as scouts, you and I, we go out on the road looking for those guys all year, and you might see one guy that can rush the quarterback the entire fall. So, I think coordinators are being more they're just being more creative with how they design fronts nowadays. So I think you can get different body types, in different positions on the field, regardless of where you are.
Yeah, to summarize, you can rush the passer, we'll make room. We'll find a spot for you.
We'll find a spot for you.
Dude, I can't thank you enough for your time, man. It's awesome stuff. I really appreciate you, bud.
All right, excited to be joined by DeMarcus Ware. And when I say a prolific pass rusher, 138.5 sacks, I think, qualifies you as a prolific pass rusher. DeMarcus, first of all, thank you so much for the time today. Do you ever get sick of hearing that number?
You know what? I never get sick of hearing that number, especially now that I'm done. I always just think about, like, how did I do it? Like, how did I actually be so consistent throughout my whole career?
As a great pass rusher, having been around other great pass rushers, is there something personality-wise that you guys all share?
The tenacity to get to the quarterback, being able to convert speed to power, being able to now push the guy to the quarterback, make the pocket right, but they're all team players. All great pass rushers are team players. And that's something that you can't, go out and get a miserable and say they run a 40 or they bench this. They actually have to sort of earn that captainship, what I call, that's my word, and they're usually the captain of the defense.
For you to bust out the fake spin move, walk us through how you came up with that. Was that something that just happened on the field? Did you prepare that? Because that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
There was something that, the fake spin move was not prepared at all. I actually was doing speed, to set him up. And then the first time I spun, he spun with me. He was the only tackle. Joe Staley is one of those guys where he ad-libs when he pass blocking. And I spun, he spun, he's right in front of me. And I said, well, maybe third downs down the road, I could do like a half spin. He would think I was spin. He spins around and turns back, and then I can just go forward to the quarterback. And when that happened, I got off the ball, I half spun and turned, and I'm like, oh my God, he wait for it. And lo and behold, there's the quarterback, and I just ran and got the sack. So it was an ad-lib thing. That's what you have to do as a rusher. You can't just say, I'm going to do speed, I'm going to do power. You got to change it up during the football game.
DeMarcus, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. Really appreciate it. All right, Buck. Well, you get a chance to listen to guys of this caliber talking about the edge rusher in the NFL. And, man, I don't know if we could have found any better guests than the ones we had. Some great information there.
Great information. I think it's unique insight, particularly from DeMarcus Ware and Willie McGinest. With DeMarcus Ware's ability to consistently get to the passer, the way that he became a dominant pass rusher, going from being a small school standout to really being one of the premier rushers in the game. The way that he breaks down his moves and the way he talks about setting up and sequencing moves was fantastic. And then with Willie McGinest, just talking about what he looks for, the mentality, the mindset to be a dominant player. I just think those are nuggets that certainly help me when I think about how I'm evaluating pass rushers for the next level.
I love the analogy comparing a pass rusher to a pitcher. In other words, one pitch sets up another pitch, having a game plan of how you're going to attack an opponent. I love getting inside the mindset of those edge rushers was fantastic. But now we're on the spot here. We've got to come up with who we believe is the prototype at the position. I'll give you the floor.
This is one that's so unique for me because I had the opportunity to play with a Bruce Smith, a Reggie White, a Derek Thomas, and all those guys, and seeing how they dominate the game. You see how guys can do it in different ways, but there was something about the way Derek Thomas rushed that really fascinated me and intrigued me. That's why I believe Von Miller is the prototype at the position. When you think about first step get off, quickness, snap count anticipation, Von Miller has all of those things. When it comes to an array of tricks, a variety of moves that you can throw at the offensive tackle, he has those. Bend and burst, dip and rip. He has a nice little inside slip move that he uses. He is the guy that you always have to pay attention to because his speed to power, his ability just to run around the edge makes it so difficult to keep him off the quarterback.
Yeah, we're on the same page here because when I was thinking of this question, the prototype, who is the guy, I just thought of who's the guy you wouldn't want to face in a key situation, and that's where I came up with Von Miller as well. And we've talked about it, Buck. You write in the words "get off" in all bold when you're getting ready to evaluate edge rushers, and I don't know there's a better get-off that I've seen than Von Miller. His ability to win right now, the suddenness off the edge, and then that sets up everything else he wants to do.
Sets it up, man. You talk about the fastball that he has. His ability to really jump off the snap is remarkable, and he is what I would call more of a finesse rusher because he does use his speed, his quickness, his athleticism, and movement skills to get home. I will say this because I believe this guy is probably a close second when you think about the prototype. Khalil Mack has to be mentioned in the conversation, and this is kind of challenging for me because I didn't know that a power rusher could ever be a guy that could consistently post high double-digit sacks because you really hadn't seen guys do that. Most of the guys that go down in the annals as the top rushers, they're more speed, quickness type pass rushers. But Khalil Mack is kind of putting that narrative on his head. His ability to take people right down the pipe, be able to kind of bull rush them, the way he uses his long arm to get into their chest and then sets up everything off of that. We haven't seen people that have been able to just kind of bully people off the edge. Khalil Mack and his ability to get home and create disruption as a power-based rusher is something that we hadn't seen. He probably would be prototype 1B when it comes to building the perfect edge rusher.
I'm right there with you. I can't argue with that. Khalil Mack's been an outstanding pro and somebody that doesn't come around very often. Talk about a once-a-decade type player. If you want more of the Prototype series, NFL.com/MTS Prototype, where we go through all the positions and talk to wonderful guests like the ones you heard right now. I think you'll enjoy the rest of that series. Again, NFL.com/MTS Prototype. All right, it's time now for Training Camp Spotlight presented by New Era. And we teased it, Buck. Super sophomores, guys in year number 2, we're expecting to take that major leap forward. Why don't you hit us up with a couple offensive guys?
So when you think about offense, naturally we're going to go right to the wide receiver position because it's a pass-first league. How about DJ Chark for the Jacksonville Jaguars? And I know what we're saying. The Jacksonville Jaguars want to get back to running the ball. They want to make sure that Leonard Fournette is the guy that kind of sets the table for the offense. But normally when you're a dominant running game, you have the ability to really create these big plays in the passing game off play action. Nick Foles coming in, I believe that synergy between he and Chark could really help this offense go to another level. Chark's speed, his explosiveness, his ability to win one-on-one on those vertical routes could give them a big play element that has been lacking in the Jaguars passing game.
Yeah, the thing I loved about him coming out of college was his toughness, and I think that's going to play well complementing that speed. And everything I've heard is just the route running has become much more refined. So I think the Jacksonville Jaguars might have one there in Chark. Who's next?
I'm going to go with Josh Allen, the quarterback from Buffalo. And look, I know some people will say, look, he broke out a season ago when he put up those ridiculous yards as a rusher. But I'm going to say that Josh Allen becomes a little more refined as a passer this year. One, they went and upgraded the cast around him, made sure he had enough playmakers, John Brown and Cole Beasley, those guys to kind of help him in the passing game. And two, I think he settles in a little more as a play-action passer. Yes, he has the athleticism to make plays and kind of play off the script, but I believe he becomes a little more polished, does a better job of getting the ball to his first and second reads in the progression. I still think his accuracy is going to be a thing, but I believe consistently he's going to be able to deliver enough passing yards to help this offense kind of stay in the positive.
Over, under, let's go 700 rushing yards, Buck. What do you think?
I'm going to go under. I don't think he runs as much. I think they believe that they can kind of put that stable of running backs around him and he can hand the ball off, but it is always there to get him out of a jam. I don't think anybody expected him to run like that, including the Buffalo Bills coaching staff.
I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over. I think all that focus on refining him as a passer, I think week 3 that's out the door and he's going. He's going. I'm going to go over 700.
Wow, you think Josh Allen's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher at quarterback. Wow.
Yeah, I said it's 700. 700. What do you got here? Who's your last one?
I'm going to go Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny from San Diego State was a first-round pick, maybe a surprise first-round pick for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm beginning to hear good things about what he's doing and what he's been able to do in training camp. I like the fact that he's a bigger back that can catch the ball out the backfield. We know he can also be a factor in the return game. I think they find a way to get him going. I'm not saying that he is going to be the next Marshawn Lynch, but I can see them begin to do some things with him that they used to do at 24. Run inside, give him the ball on swing passes, and allow him to be a check-down option in the passing game. I think Rashad Penny has a big impact and becomes a major contributor to the Seahawks offense.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle for carries there in Seattle, so I'm anxious to see how this whole thing sorts itself out. We know the athleticism's there. We know his ability to get out of the backfield and catch the football is going to be big for this football team. I just wonder now, Russell's got all this cash. If they don't try and throw the ball a little bit more, and now they have some vertical stretch weapons to complement what else they have in place there, I would not be shocked if we see the Seahawks maybe a little bit more, throw the ball a little bit more, and that's where maybe him getting involved in passing.
I don't know. It worked so successfully for them. They ran the ball 52% of the time a season ago, more than any other team in the league. And Pete Carroll has talked about the running game is kind of the bread and butter with the way they built this team. And Brian Schottenheimer, look, I played for his dad, Marty Schottenheimer, who coined Marty Ball, which was like being
Marty Ball.
Pound it. And I just believe that they understand that that's their recipe. They won 10 games, kind of leaning on their formula. And even though Russell Wilson is compensated and paid as an elite franchise quarterback, I think they just kind of want to break him out when they need him, not because they have to. I think that's the best approach for them when you come to evaluating their offense.
I was just waiting for ownership, just week 4 or 5, like knock on that door. Yeah, we're paying. What am I paying Russell Wilson again? And how many times is he handing the ball off? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens there with the Seahawks in that formula. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. You mentioned the Buffalo Bill, who technically, kind of broke out last year on the offensive side of the ball, and Josh Allen. I'm going to go the Buffalo Bills on the defensive side of the ball. A guy who had a great rookie season in Tremaine Edmonds. But I'm going to say breakout just from the standpoint of he's going to get the national recognition that he deserves this year. He's going to break out on a national scale. Led the team in tackles last year, gets his hands on a ton of footballs. He can be used even more as a blitzer, which I hope we see a little bit more of that this year. But his year was every bit as good as Leighton Vander Esch. Just one guy has a star on his helmet and got a lot more hype and a lot more pub. I think this year Tremaine Edmonds is going to force everybody around the country to pay attention to just how good he is. Youngest player in the league last year, Buck, and he's only going to get better.
Look, I like the combination that they're kind of putting together in Buffalo. We always talk about defense as being strong right down the middle. So now you go and get an Ed Oliver. You have a Tremaine Edmonds who can be able to make plays. I just like what the Buffalo Bills are doing. Look, he's the centerpiece to that defense. He is going to get his attention. It's just a matter of time.
All right, let's get to another one here. Marcus Davenport, injury-riddled rookie season with the Saints. Obviously, they believed in him, trading a future first-round pick to go up and get him 2 years ago. He can stay healthy, and you look at that defensive front with Cam Jordan, Sheldon Rankins. He's going to get a chance to get a lot of one-on-one. And the twitch, the power, the explosiveness, that's all there. And I think as he gets a little bit older, a little more refined as a pass rusher with his hands, the sky's the limit. So he stays healthy. I think a big year for Marcus Davenport.
Yeah, he should have a big year. They have a lot invested in him. They need that complimentary rusher to be on the opposite side of Cam Jordan. He is the guy because he certainly has the athletic traits to be able to get it done. We'll see if he can put it together on the field.
And the last one I have, maybe a little bit under the radar, Uchenna Nwosu for the Chargers. Had a chance to see him a bunch at USC coming through college. Second-round pick of the Chargers, and people will ask, well, where's he going to play? I mean, you've got Melvin Ingram on one side, you've got Joey Bosa on another. They're going to find ways to get him on the field. He's going to be a Sam linebacker. He could play on the ball. He can play off the ball. And then in sub, you'll see him rotating through. And I got a chance to see him in the preseason live against the Arizona Cardinals, Buck. They could not block him. He's got tremendous speed and athleticism coming off the edge. And also somebody Gus Bradley can be creative with. You can walk him around and send him from different angles. You can kick Bosa inside. There's a lot of different things they can do with him. I think a very valuable chess piece in year number 2.
Yeah, very, very valuable chess piece. And you talk about they have so many different chess pieces that are interchangeable that can be aggressive attack players. You talk about Nwosu, Derwin James, all of those guys in the back end being able to drop down. The Chargers defense is going to be a nightmare to kind of deal with just because they have so many players that can do a variety of different things.
Oh, there you go. That was Training Camp Spotlight presented by New Era. Buck, fun show today. For the folks that want to check out the podcast, show them where they can find it.
Look, they can always download the Move the Sticks podcast at Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Also, check out the entire Move the Sticks position prototype series at NFL/MTS Prototype. For more videos, also check out our new YouTube channel at youtube.com/NFL Podcast.
Yep, that's where you can find all of the Move the Sticks goodies there. Again, the Prototype series, I think the folks will really enjoy that. If you enjoyed listening to some of those interviews, you're going to really enjoy that series. NFL.com/MTS Prototype. You can find it there. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching Move the Sticks, presented by New Era.